Welcome to Butt and Butt Tutorials. I am Sheshadri, faculty for Social Science. This session is for 10th grade state syllabus, and we are doing a lesson on social science, lesson in history. The students, we have already completed the lesson Advent of Europeans to India. This session is the question and answer session for the lesson Advent of Europeans to India. Okay, let us look at the answers. The first few questions are like 1 mark questions, 6 of them, single marks. In 1453, the Ottoman Turks occupied dash city. The answer is Constantinople. To remember Constantinople, I had reminded you also earlier. Modern day capital of Turkey, Istanbul. That is Constantinople. The old name is Constantinople. The sea route between India and Europe was discovered by Vasco da Gama, who was a Portuguese sailor and who was financed by the King of Portugal to undertake this journey. The capital of French in India was Pondicherry. And the speciality of Pondicherry, as we have seen in the lesson, even after the French lost the Carnatic Wars, Pondicherry was given back to them by the British. Okay, question 4. In 1757, Robert Clive declared dash war over Sirajud-Dowlah. This is the Battle of Plassey. The Plassey War, or also commonly known as the Battle of Plassey. Question 5. The Diwani rights over Bengal were handed over to British by Shah Alam II. Actually, Shah Alam II was the one who in the Battle of Buxar, who had fought against the British. So, after he got defeated, he hands over the Diwani rights. Diwani rights are the right to collect taxes. The dual government policy was implemented by dash in Bengal. This was Robert Clive. Okay. So these were the short questions. Now let us look at questions which have long answers. Basically 3 or 4 mark questions where you will have to write all the concerned points that are there with that particular question. How did trade take place between India and Europe during the Middle Ages? The Arab merchants carried the Asian merchandise into Constantinople of Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantium Empire. It was principally Christian at that point of time, when Rome was in control of Constantinople. Italian merchants would buy these goods and then sell in European countries. There was a great demand for Indian spices like pepper, cardamom, ginger, and many other spices in Europe. Like this, Constantinople was the center of international business and considered as the gate of European trade. While Arab merchants had gained monopoly over the trade in Asian countries, Italian traders had gained monopoly over trade in Europe. The merchandise from Asia had brought good profits to Italian merchants. So it was like one half of the trade was being handled by the Arabs, the second half being handled by the Italians. So before sea routes were found, these were trade. This was trade which was going on mainly on the land routes. Discuss the reasons that resulted in the discovery of a new sea route to India. The trade and commerce between Asia and Europe were taking place through the city of Constantinople. In 1453, the Ottoman Turks captured the city of Constantinople. As a result, all the trade routes connecting the city of Constantinople came under the control of Turks. The Turks started levying too many taxes on the goods passing through these routes. They saw that the entire trade to Europe and to other parts was happening through Constantinople. So they tried to make good profit out of it. But because of increasing taxes, the goods became costly. As a result, the merchants felt that the trade was not profitable. Obviously, because of too many taxes, the selling price of the goods will go high. The moment it goes high, demand for it will come down. So that is what happened there. Meanwhile, Spain and Portugal were attempting to break the monopoly of Italian traders. They started encouraging courageous sailors to find a sea route to India, and the invention of compass, astrolabes, and gunpowder provided further impetus to this venture. These navigation aids, compass and the astrolabe. Astrolabe is basically one which they could do astronomical measurements, and with the direction of the night sky, they would find out the direction. Gunpowder here definitely was not a navigation tool, but rather a defensive tool there. A lot of piracy those times in those seas there. So because of gunpowder, they would be able to protect themselves. So all these things that provided them the encouragement to find a sea route to India. Okay, the next one. Make a list of the Europeans who arrived at India to do business. Answer is first, Portuguese. Portuguese was the first to arrive in India for the trade and were also the last to leave India on the sea route. Second, the Dutch are from Holland or Netherlands. Holland is the old name. The United Kingdom of Netherlands is the new name. And all people from there are the Dutch. They established United East India Company in 1602 with the aim of doing business with Eastern countries and entered countries like India, Java, Sumatra, Indonesia, and spices-rich islands. Spices-rich islands is a group of islands near Indonesia. It is to the northeast of Indonesia. So finally, when because of competition from the English and the French, these people, both the Portuguese and the Dutch, they withdrew their trade from India. The Dutch finally concentrated on the spices-rich islands because spices again was the commodity which was very much in demand. So first the Portuguese, then Dutch, then you have the English. In 1600, December 31st, Queen Elizabeth issued a royal charter authorizing East India Company to trade with Eastern countries for 15 years. This began the process of the English. Fourth is the French. The French East India Company started as a government-owned company in 1664. It started its first factory in Surat in the year 1668. Okay. In this way, Portuguese, Dutch, English, and French were the Europeans who arrived at India to do business. Now, other than the Carnatic Wars, there can also be a question on the presence of the Dutch, what the Dutch did in the country during the trade, what the Portuguese did in the country during the period that they traded in India. This is not part of this question and answer session, but this we will be giving it to you as a assignment. Okay. Question 10. Explain the first Carnatic War. On the request of Dupleix, Dupleix was the Governor General of the French who was based in Pondicherry. So on the request of Dupleix, La Bourdonnais, a French military leader from Mauritius, invaded Madras and captured it. The British already had Madras with them by that time. But after this French military tried to capture it, this forced the British to request the help of Anwaruddin, the Nawab of Carnatic, for support. The army sent by Anwaruddin failed to defeat the French at Madras. Finally, La Bourdonnais took money from the English and returned Madras and went back to Mauritius. This enraged Dupleix and he attempted to take Madras but failed in it. Finally, the war ended with a treaty in Europe between France and England called Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle. All these three wars, that is the first war, first Carnatic War, the second Carnatic War, and the third Carnatic War, victory ultimately happened to the British. That you have to note. Please note these points that it was with these three wars that part of South India was totally controlled by the British. And then after that, they shifted their sights onto Bengal. Okay, explain the second Carnatic War. Here, other than what was given in the textbook, in the main heading, the box that is there, so one or 2 points from that box also you will have to add. So it starts with the Nizam of Hyderabad. Asaf died in 1748. Muzaffar Jung became the Nizam but got killed. Salabat Jung, another son of Asaf Jah as the Nizam of Hyderabad. An officer named Busi was stationed in Hyderabad for his protection by the French, for the protection of Salabat Jung. In Carnatic, Chand Sahib was Nawab with the help of French. Robert Clive of East India Company attacked Arcot, the capital city of Carnatic, and defeated Chand Sahib. Chand Sahib was imprisoned and later killed in this war. Now, because Chand Sahib was the Nawab with the help of the French, after he was killed, in place of Chand Sahib, the English named Muhammad Ali, the son of Anwaruddin, as the Nawab of Carnatic. The second Carnatic War ended with the Treaty of Pondicherry. And the French recalled Dupleix. Dupleix was the Governor General of the French. Maybe because of his failure to do victories. Even the first Carnatic War he had lost. He lost the second Carnatic War also. So the French recalled Dupleix. This war brought laurels to English, while the French suffered a political setback. Now, third Carnatic War we have not included in this. You can do this as part of the assignment. State the reasons and results of Plassey War or the Battle of Plassey. The Battle of Plassey, it happened in 1757. Ali Vardi Khan, the Nawab of Bengal, died in 1756. His grandson, Siraj-ud-Dowlah, came to the throne. The Plassey battle took place between the young Nawab Siraj-ud-Dowlah and the British in 1757. Now, what were the reasons and the results of this war? Reasons. The first reason, misuse of dastakats. Dastakats was the word that they used in those days for trade license. Basically, they are trade license which are given by the Mughal emperor at that point of time. Now, there were dastakats which were issued by the earlier Nawab and also by Siraj-ud-Dowlah. Siraj-ud-Dowlah was furious that the dastakats were misused by the officials of the company, incurring losses to the government treasury. We have discussed in the class also, whatever trade that happened under a particular dastakat, a certain portion of the trade amount would go to the government treasury. What British officials in the company were doing was they were under-reporting or they were under-invoicing, as it is called. If a certain quantity of a particular item was sold under the dastakat, they would not represent a certain quantity, and for the quantity which was not reported under that particular trade, the amount would be pocketed by them. So this brought a lot of losses to the government treasury. So first reason why Siraj-ud-Dowlah was angry was because of the misuse of dastakats. Then mending of the fort without permission. The British repaired the fort of Calcutta and placed cannons in them. The moment British came into Bengal, they already had this in mind that definitely the whole of Bengal will have to be captured by them, or they will have to defeat the Nawab. So because of this, they started increasing their military presence there and cannons were placed on the fort. This further angered Siraj-ud-Dawla, and he ordered removal of cannons from the fort. Small error there, it's not fort, it is fort. Removal of cannons from the fort. The British refused to do this, angering the Nawab further. This was the second reason why it flared up into this battle. Issues of Dastakhats, then mending of the fort without permission. Then the third reason is what is called as the Black Room tragedy. Siraj-ud-Dawla conquered Fort William easily and imprisoned many soldiers of the British. He imprisoned 146 Englishmen in a small room in the fort, of which 123 died. This is called as the Black Room tragedy. This enraged Robert Clive, who arrived in Bengal with a large army. And when Robert Clive came, he immediately did not start the war. He first got involved all the top traders, and then he saw who was the weak point in Siraj-ud-Dawla's army. It was Mir Qasim, and he asked him to be neutral. So all these strategies Robert Clive did. So what was the outcome of this war? This war brought out the immorality, lack of unity among the Indians, and the greed of Indian businessmen. Mir Jafar was the commander-in-chief of the Nawab actually. He was to head the army. And when Robert Clive led the attack, they had asked Mir Jafar to be neutral, because they said, you be neutral during this attack, don't give him any support, and then we make you the Nawab. Eventually, even he gets removed. That is how the British used to play at those times. So the second outcome, Mir Jafar became the Nawab of Bengal. First reason in the outcome is this war brought out the immorality. Mir Jafar, if he was loyal to Siraj-ud-Dawla, definitely Robert Clive would have had much more trouble in trying to defeat him. So his eyeing the seat of the Nawab, that what led him to go on this immoral route. So that was one of the things. Greed of the Indian businessmen, when traders, they supported Robert Clive. He offered them more benefits than what was being availed by them under the Nawab. So they also started giving their support to Robert Clive. All these, unless he had used all these strategies, they would not have gained control over Siraj-ud-Dawla. Then the next outcome, the company gained exclusive rights to do business in Bengal. Mir Jafar had to pay rupees 17 crore and 70 lakh to the British as a relief to Siraj-ud-Dawla's attack on Fort William. This was also one very common occurrence during those days. Compensation of losses due to war. The person who was defeated, if the person who was victorious demanded it, he had to pay him compensation. This was one such situation there. This happens also in the Battle of Buxar, as we will see next. So Mir Jafar had to pay this as a relief. Now, the British projected Mir Jafar as an inefficient Nawab and brought in his nephew Mir Qasim as the new Nawab. Mir Qasim, the moment he came, he knew how cunning the British were. He knew even his days were numbered. So even he, that is why he declares himself as a king. That is what led to the Battle of Buxar, the next battle. These two battles are in effect the Battle of Plassey and the Battle of Buxar. That entirely made the British very strong in the entire eastern and the northern parts of India at that point of time. Okay. What were the results of Battle of Buxar? The other question that can come is, what were the reasons of Battle of Buxar, which you have to answer separately. But this is the question here is, what are the results of Battle of Buxar? The combined forces of Mir Qasim faced the British army led by Hector Munro at Buxar in 1764. Now Mir Qasim got defeated and ran away from the battlefield. Shah Alam II, who was the Mughal emperor at that time, Mughal ruler at that time, he had given his support to Mir Qasim to fight the British. So Shah Alam II surrendered. The efforts of the combined forces to stop the British failed completely. So what were the results of this? Shah Alam II accorded the Diwani rights over Bengal to the British. That is the right to collect taxes. Basically all the money that had to go to the treasury. So earlier going to the Mughal emperor, who were in turn giving it to the British. Now directly all the Diwani rights were given to the British. Shah Alam II gave away all the rights over Bengal to the British for an annual fee of rupees 26 lakhs. So one shot, it was a loss to him, they would have forced him to do this. They would give him one lump sum payment, and whatever were the taxes that were collected in the entire presidency of Bengal. We call it a presidency because it was a huge area. Please remember, the Bengal of those days was undivided Bengal, which means the present day, what we call as West Bengal, that is in India, or Bengal, and the present day Bangladesh. Both, it was not yet partitioned. Bengal was not yet partitioned in those days. So we can imagine this whole of Bengal, as we see now in India, plus the entire land area of Bangladesh. Together was Bengal at that time. The Nawab of Awadh had to give away a fine of rupees 50 lakh for waging a war against the company. So this also is again the war compensation. Just like it was paid in the Battle of Plassey, it was paid here also. And finally, with the death of Mir Jafar, the company paid the pension to his son and took over the entire administration of Bengal. The way the British worked, whoever ruler was against their interest, he would immediately become an enemy. And whoever was once favorable also would become an enemy, as we have seen in the case of Mir Jafar. They removed Mir Jafar, not in Mir Qasim. And when Mir Qasim rebelled against him, they removed him and again made Mir Jafar. So the British used to do all these games at that point when they wanted to gain control over the entire country. This brings us to the end of the question and answer session. Any further doubts? You can call us on these numbers, or you can send a message in the Button Tutorials mobile app chat section.